The Data Chief is a podcast for data and analytics leaders to share their personal stories and insights on technology, culture, and leadership. Welcome to The Data Chief.
The Data Chief is brought to you by ThoughtSpot, the AI-powered analytics company. With ThoughtSpot's user-friendly platform, anyone can leverage natural language search and generative AI to uncover actionable data insights. Whether you're a seasoned data analyst, a business leader, or product builder, ThoughtSpot empowers you to effortlessly interact with live cloud data, generating granular, hyper-personalized insights in real time. Learn why customers at Cigna, Just Eat Takeaway, and Capital One trust ThoughtSpot to drive business outcomes with data. Visit ThoughtSpot.com today.
Welcome to the Data Chief. I'm your host, Cindi Howson, and joining us today is Bartley Richardson, CTO of NVIDIA AI software. Bartley is a leading expert in the field of artificial intelligence, and he's here to talk to us about how organizations are leveraging generative AI to unlock new opportunities and transform their businesses. Bartley, welcome to the Data Chief.
Thank you so much for having me, Cindi. And what a great intro. I'm going to use that in so many places, I think.
Yeah, and guess what? AI didn't even write it. It was real humans writing it.
It's great. It's fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, where are you joining us from today, Bartley?
It's January, and I am in sunny, beautiful Washington, D.C. right now, where it's a balmy 16 degrees.
Okay, we can't complain because New Orleans, when we launch this, will have gotten a historic snowfall, and at least DC can cope with this stuff. Our friends in the South generally can't. But of course, the weather's been exciting. AI has been exciting. Tell us a little bit about your role at NVIDIA.
Yeah. So, at NVIDIA, we all of us generally wear a ton of different hats, right? Like at NVIDIA. So, but in this role for Agentic AI and Agentic AI software, essentially it's trying to get our hands around what we as NVIDIA can uniquely bring to the ecosystem, this ever-growing ecosystem of generative AI and AI agents that help businesses, help ISVs, help end customers really deploy that in meaningful, strategic, and ways that give them a really good ROI.
I feel like I'm leading the witness here, but focused on probably the hottest topic in our industry, agentic AI. Maybe I should ask, though, do you think that is the most exciting development, or what's the most exciting development in the AI space?
I think I love leading the witness. Like, you can lead me to any of this. What a great question, right? Like, it's going so well thus far, I think. No, you're right. No pressure, by the way. I think it is one of the most kind of exciting and the most transformative, right? Potentially transformative times. I talk a lot with people, either employees at NVIDIA or across the industry. And I say this a lot. I'm like, now, if I had to pick, I think if I had to pick the time to be alive and in this industry, it would be right now. Like, the amount of progress just leaps every day, right? There's some new breakthrough or some new announcement or some new capability, right? That didn't exist the day before. So I think this world of generative AI and agentic AI is really exciting. And I think it's exciting because we're finally to the point, right? Like, I'm old enough that I've heard about AI for a long time now, right? I took classes in AI when I was at grad school, when I was going back for my PhD in computer science. And we're finally to the point where experience of individuals using AI is meeting their expectations of AI, where you're finally able to use it in meaningful ways in your day-to-day life and have it be something more than a label that you slap onto something, right? Like, or more than just a phrase that you say about something that might be statistics.
Yeah, and so there's a couple things to parse there, and I don't want to assume that all our listeners really understand what agentic AI is. I feel like a lot last year were just still getting their minds around generative AI. But let's parse What does agentic AI really mean? Can you give us a definition there?
Yeah, well, and it's great news, right? Because if you're getting your hands around LLMs and generative AI, agentic AI and agents are additive to that definition that you've already found in your head. And the way I kind of break it down, I don't think it has to be much more difficult than English, right? Agents or agentic AI is a system, and it can be a really small system or it can be a complicated system that has some level of agency to take some action on behalf of the user or the system. And so, as part of that, we leverage LLMs and generative AI to understand questions and form responses. When we add this really simple concept of an agent, we now give the ability for that generative AI system, that LLM, to reach out to tools that it didn't have before, right? Like now, not only can it do lookups, it can perform SQL queries for you. It can generate and understand images. It can take action on your CRM or understand your emails or draft these things for you. So all it really is it's giving that generative AI system the ability to access all of these tools and letting it think and reason about how and when to use those tools.
Yeah. And so I do think it's exciting and the promise is there, but I have to push back a little bit, Bartley. I would say that it's not, when you said it's meeting expectations, I think expectations are super high. And the degree that any AI agent or generative AI application, even, is meeting expectations is really all over the place. Why do we have these different perspectives? What do you think?
Well, I think, and that's it's a good point, right? I think we have these different perspectives just because of, we have decades right now of promises that's like, oh, okay, AI is going to be here in the next 5 years, and then we're 5 years out, and AI is going to be here in the next 5 years, and AI is going to be here in the next 5 years. So as you go through this process, we all do, myself, all of us, we form this opinion in our mind of what AI looks like and what AI should be. And where we're seeing, rapid adoption and rapid success might not have been in the places that we would have anticipated 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right? But deploying AI agents for customer service, right? Deploying AI agents when you can use things on the web, right, to search things and kind of pull information together like really quickly. This is something that a lot of us, myself included, we use this every day, right? Like every day, I'm going to either Chat GPT or something like Perplexity, and I use that to not just gather information, but prepare tables for me to actually like summarize things to give me additional context to learn. And as I'm doing this, the system learns about how I like to learn and how it needs to present information to me. So if we, there's truth in what you said, right? Like if we have this expectation that like, okay, you're going to go and you're going to use this AI and it's going to do everything for you. It slices, it dices. It's the what was the infomercial? It's the Rompopil rotisserie oven, right? It does everything for you. If we have that expectation, I do think we're not gonna meet it, right? Because in my mind, that's the same thing as you would say, okay, I'm starting this business and I'm going to buy the software, right? I'm like, well, what does that mean, right? Like you have a lot of different software when you run a business, and you'll have a lot of different AIs that do very kind of more specific things than a general tasking type of AI. So if we look at it through that lens, where we have specific things for customer service to help with research, to help with software engineering tasks, I see it in both internally at NVIDIA and the companies we work with every day, where they're getting real value out of this while keeping their workforce kind of like trained and elevated.
Yeah. And so I do think part of it is expectations. Part of it is data, the quality of the data. Is it accessible and all of that? But you already mentioned twice now, top use case in customer service. So when you think about the whole landscape of AI agents, the promise that it will book your doctor's appointments even, or your next trip, your next travel, do you think customer service will be the first use case where the hype will meet the expectations, or what are your favorite use cases?
I think it will be one of them, right? Like I think retail and customer service is great because um, I don't know who's listening to it, but I'm sure everyone listening right now loves navigating phone trees when you're trying to call your cable provider or your cell phone provider or your water provider, right? Like it's a terrible experience, right? Like we hate it so much. And the reason, right, historically we do that is because there's just not enough people at, if I use a cybersecurity term, at like tier 3, tier 4 level of troubleshooting. So we have to like get through these things. Did you reboot your modem? Like, all these things that have to happen. And these are areas where an AI that's tuned for customer service to your particular customer base can not only be consistent in the information that they're delivering and up to date in the information that they're delivering, they can be endlessly empathetic, right? Like with you, they can work with you at end, right? Like if you take a counterexample, me trying to troubleshoot my family's computer problems, right? Like I'm the last person you want with that, right? Like they didn't follow my instructions directly. But in these customer service use cases, right, like it presents a really great kind of opportunity for us to give customers that are already, maybe they're calling in for a problem. So they're already not having the best day, right? Like in their life. It gives them something easier to interact with than a phone tree or trying to get to a person, right? Like, it might actually, in a lot of cases, give them information. And we see a lot of, we at NVIDIA make these things. We call them NVIDIA blueprints, right? And they're free, and they just basically show how to put together pieces of technology, ours, but also others, right, in the ecosystem, right? Like LangChain, Llama Index, like all of them are there. So it's not just NVIDIA technology. And we have one for customer service, like our customer service blueprint that companies can start with. And so we've seen companies like SoftServe and Dell and WWT take that blueprint. And it's exactly what the name says. Like here's a recipe, here's a way to get started. You can add to it, you can change it, do whatever you want to with it to make it your own, right? Like integrate it with your systems. And so the reason I could keep coming back to that one is we've seen adoption of that, as one of our kind of like leading indicators.
Yeah. So you've given me a new favorite term, endlessly empathetic. I think I seriously need a deep fake for when my husband says, Cindi, the printer's not working. And yeah, it's like, are you connected to the Wi-Fi? Did you reset the printer? I'm not endlessly empathetic. But so I think those are great use cases, Bartley. At CES a few weeks ago, Jensen discussed in his keynote how IT really becomes the HR in the agentic workforce. Tell us a little bit more about this and when you think it will be reality.
2025, right?
Really?
I think we'll
Okay.
see. I think it's this year. I think it's this year, right? Like, and I have to stop a little bit when I'm like 2025. And I'm like, that seems so far, right? Because it's always 2002 or 2005 for me, right? Like, so 2025 seems like, oh my goodness, so far in the future. I think it's this year where we'll see maybe a quarter, right, of businesses actually onboard these agents as coworkers, right? That they're going to say certainly by 2030, right? If we project out even 5 more years from that. We've already done it. I love to use NVIDIA as an example, right? Like one, because intimately familiar with it, and two, we obviously believe in the promise. I believe in the promise of AI and agentic workflows. So I think it's important to use it, not just to help our workers and to help our kind of employees, but also to understand all of the pain points and to understand what customers are coming to us with or what the ecosystem is coming to us with. So we deployed, we've already onboarded some of these that kind of Jensen was talking about at NVIDIA. And one we've talked about a bit in the past is we deliver a lot of software, and we want that software to go through the proper security kind of scanning and have it be, secure on delivery, right? So everyone can adopt it. Call them, CVEs. We want all these CVEs to be mitigated, right? Either in code, bump the version. And we have this agentic workflow. We call it Agent Morpheus. The marketing's great on it, right? But really what it is it's an agent, a series of agents that go through, and after every container scan, after every container build, it takes this, like, it uses 4 different LLMs. It uses this kind of like iterative chain of thought process. And we'll go through all these possible CVEs and say, is this actually legit? Have I mitigated this in the code somehow? Take all of that context, all of that text, summarize it for one of our security analysts, give them a recommendation, and then they can choose to kind of acknowledge that recommendation and go with it, or they can choose to kind of deep dive into it, right? But the point is, it's giving them an accelerant. It's giving them this superpower, all these coworkers that are operating on their behalf and gathering information and doing this like deep analysis for them and surfacing it back up to them. And so we've already started to onboard some of that, even for other areas of software delivery and software security.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of the, let's say, code reviews, quality assurance, and code generation, we know that generative AI has been great there. I think what's interesting with the HR angle is that some of the first use cases with generative AI focused on HR and employee handbooks because so much is buried in PDFs. One, because so much is buried in PDFs, but two, because anything internal feels less risky than when you're putting it out in front of customers. So do we think that agentic AI in the HR use case is, again, because it feels a little safer, or because that's been one of the biggest pain points or low-hanging fruit, so to speak?
Well, I think probably all of that, right? Like everything feels safer when you can put your arms around it, right? If we go back to our old school definition of security, firewall it off, right? Like I can put my arms around it, I feel safe, right? Like everything's here. So there's truth to that. I think the other reasons, though, are you talked about data a little bit ago, and I go back to one of your previous episodes when you had Valerie Logan on, right? Like who was talking about data literacy, and making this like informed data decision plus critical thinking. What I tell people is, like, AI does not absolve you of critical thinking and this data literacy thing, right? If anything, it amplifies the need for this, right?
For
and
sure.
So if we take this back to HR, companies have spent a long time and they pay attention to these handbooks and onboarding documents and all of this. So it's this treasure trove of very, very good data that we can pull from, and that makes it a lot easier to kind of get started in that arena.
Yeah. And so you've described how NVIDIA is drinking your own champagne. In your role as CTO for AI, you also work with many customers. What are you seeing in the customer base as their top use cases?
So there's one, I won't repeat it. There's one, I mentioned, soft serve Dell WOT. We see, the customer service, right? Retail assistant, digital human, right? Virtual assistant, whatever you want to call it, right? Like we see that in a lot of different areas. That expands out into areas like, it's not just maybe you're calling in or you're chatting, but we're seeing that in kiosks, right? As well. Mm-hmm. So think customer service at like a kiosk. And I know SoftServe just launched their AI shopping assistant, right? So there's these different dimensions, right, of retail that might be there. But I mentioned many hats, right, like at NVIDIA, and I don't want to turn this into like a cybersecurity themed session, right? But one of my other hats is leading engineering and product for AI for cybersecurity, right? Like, which I think I'm extremely passionate about, right? Even back in my DARPA days, right, and my days with the government. And we see actually a lot of adoption there and a lot of traction there because the data volumes are so massive, right? I can't think of another use case or another domain where you get turnover of data at such a high rate as security. Organizations, a small organization like NVIDIA, right? Like 35,000 people. Tiny organization, right? We have, I say it in jest, we feel small at the time, right? We feel small because we're doing so much, But we turn over massive amounts of data per day, petabytes, right? Like of data per day. And in order to really get a handle on that data, you don't have a choice. You have to use AI if you have any shot of looking at all of that data. So when we're talking about companies like AWS, right, like are adopting this for security postures, all of the big cybersecurity companies, if you just want to go down the list, right, like CrowdStrike, Palo, they're all coming with AI solutions that are, and I don't want to speak for them, but they're actual AI solutions, right, where they're using this to sift through this massive amounts of data and up level kind of meaningful things to the humans or to the analysts.
Yeah. And I mean, that is a good use case also because you really are looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack. Who is the one trying to break in? Which is the one that is truly fraudulent, either the call or the transaction? So AI definitely is a strong solution here.
Well, and the best thing, there's that for sure. And the best thing about this is if you go to other, if we take, let's just take the software security use case, right? The thing I like about those, and you can apply it to anything. You can apply it for software running on your machine. You can apply it to policies across your environment. The good thing about that is humans right now or previously, they had to look at 100% of it, right? So if AI saves them 60% of their time, right? Like it doesn't have to be right 100% of the time. And that's the key, right? Like there are use cases and there's goodness in what you said, like, unknown unknowns and surfacing anomalies. Sometimes we run into like, well, you have to be right a lot of the time, right? Like, and there's a long tail, right, for that as you tune it. But in these other use cases, you can deliver capabilities and maybe you only do 60% of it, right, to begin with AI. You're still saving 60% of some team's time that they can focus on other things with, right? And we see that in security policies. We see that in software delivery and software vulnerabilities. And so it's kind of another way to look at it that's a little bit more kind of, it's a little bit more tractable.
Yeah, and that's a huge productivity win for organizations. So we covered, Bartley, some of the use cases. What about the tools and technology that is just changing so quickly? There's new startups, there's new solutions from larger vendors coming out every week. What advice do you have for AI and tech leaders to evaluate and build these AI agents?
Yeah, it's not an easy job, right? Because the space is right. We're kind of at the early, right. We're at the early internet days when things are changing so much, right? And they're changing, I would say, even more rapidly, right, than they were in the past. So I think there's some obvious things, right? I think, and one is really really listen to your employees, right? Like, and listen to their pain points because, and I think, I'll speak for myself. Like I've been guilty of this. I'll see something, I'll be like, I think this would be amazing. Like this would help us so much, right? And then we might get it. And it turns out like, well, this wasn't actually the pain point, right? Like this helped maybe 1% or 2. And we did all this time to do it. But for our business, for what we were trying to do from my groups, it just wasn't very useful. Great for other people, right? Every business is a little different. So I think really listen to your workforce in where are their pain points at? Where are they experiencing staffing shortages, right? That you can't seem to fill? Where are there, blockages in the funnel, right? Of their productivity? And then look specifically for solutions that kind of lend themselves towards that. I think as you're evaluating it, ensuring kind of the basics, like how can I instrument this? How can I feed this into my current telemetry system, right, is important. And I think that probably the biggest thing is, you don't have to tackle everything in your business all at once, right? And you don't have to, not everything has to be the same. If you go to any company, ask them, is your entire IT system a single system? It's probably not, right? Like you probably have different systems that are designed for different things. And I don't know why we think, AI and agentic AI would be any different in this scenario, right? What I have for HR might be different than what I need for software delivery, right? Because these are two different mechanisms of a company. They both might be different than supply chain automation and things like that. So just like you don't have like a homogeneous IT system, it's not like you don't go to your IT department and be like, turn on the software, right? That's not a thing, right? You're not going to say, turn on the AI, right? Like, because it's software at the end of the day. So I think having that kind of upfront and not being afraid to, okay, I'm going to adopt this for this use case, and then realize, okay, if I want to expand this, I've got HR, maybe I've got CRM automation, and now I'm looking for something in supply chain. It might be a slightly different solution than what you have. Like, it's not going to be a one size fits all.
Okay, so there's two threads I want to pull on here. It sounds like you're really pushing for or recognizing vertical AI agents, these specialized AI agents, rather than just a generic platform for building AI agents. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, and I think we see that in the ecosystem currently, right? Like if you go, for example, if you go and look at the current agentic framework options out there, I haven't checked today. There's probably two more that have popped up today,
There's
right?
probably a dozen. It's probably
Yeah,
a
right.
dozen.
Cindy, we're so far behind because
I
we've been
know.
talking right. We got to get to work. But if you look at them, and they're all good, but they might be differently good at different things, right? If I want to design a system of agents that can be self-organizing, they can decide how they want to communicate or something like that. Maybe I use something like a Crew or a Microsoft semantic kernel. If I have something where I don't, in those cases, I don't necessarily need to like specify the path. I don't have to do that very, very hard. But if I know something and I'm like, hey, this agent's just going to do this series of actions every time, and I want that to be, specific, and I want that to be as coded as possible in that path, I might turn to like a LangChain or a Llama Stack or something like that to do that. Or I might just use straight up Python. So there's going to be different tools for these different jobs, right? It's true now of agentic AI. It was true when deep learning came along with machine learning. It was true when ML came along with statistics. And it was true when I was growing up on the farm in the middle of Ohio. And my grandfather instilled in me like, hey, there's a right tool for the right job. The hammer doesn't negate the need for the screwdriver, and the ML doesn't negate the need for stats. DL doesn't negate the need for ML, and AI doesn't negate the need for stats and data and just plain old counting things. It's an additive process.
Okay, so the right tool for the right job. However, I'm going to have to take the viewpoint of a CTO, CIO, chief AI officer who is flat out overwhelmed with all these choices. And their CFO is saying, simplify, 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 simplify. So when you said we don't just say turn on the software, I would counter in some organizations, they do. They do full stack buying, just buy everything from fill in the blank, Microsoft or Oracle. And we're just going to use whatever's in their portfolio from transaction system to database to AI agents and office productivity. And somebody once said to me, if SAP made cars, we would buy our cars from SAP. So, what do you say to people with that mindset?
I think you can do that, right? Like there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And the benefit that you might gain, there's obviously going to be some support, right? Like with that, there's going to be like niceties of the integrations, right? Like obviously it's going to work really well together. I would counter and say another way. If we just let's take software, and then let's like for a minute, let's just carve out like AI, true AI enabled software. If you want to be in that group, that's like that's going to realize these digital workers, that's going to see, right, like this large kind of like ROI, right, like of it. I think we're at the point, or I know we're at the point where we have to be willing to take a little bit of chance, right? Like take a little bit of risk. And I believe that customization to your enterprise is going to be important. So either you can get that, you might get that from your all-in-one provider, right? They might let you customize your model. They might let you kind of like do things with your own data that are in a secure way. They're not leaving your enclave, or they're using your cloud credentials to do that, right? That's one option. This is something that if you're a CIO or a CFO evaluating these technologies, you can even ask this question. You're like, how could I customize this for my use cases or my employee data, right? I think though, if that's not possible and you really want to adopt it, the tools that are available to build just a really quick POC that you can contain, you can put your arms around it. Like we said, you can see if it's going to work for you, are getting really good, right? The ability to write these systems using natural language is going to be great in 5 years maximum, right? I think we're going to be there in less time than that. And so you can do that, and you can have a little bit of this, like, I think the way I would summarize that is get your hands a little bit dirty, right?
Yeah.
Like start working with it, right? Like a little bit. And I think it will, I think you'll feel it much more intrinsically.
Yeah. So I'm so glad I didn't lead the witness there, Bartley, because your answer really surprised me.
Oh,
I,
good. Well,
well,
wait, I don't know if that's good or not.
no, it's good. I say I always think through discourse we get to a better way of thinking. But I say to these organizations that do the full stack buying, I agree that we are in the dial-up days of internet. And who will be the winner here is yet to be decided. So this idea that you can buy everything from one vendor and it's integrated is really wishful thinking and marketecture at best. You have to be willing to take these risks. Otherwise, you're accepting really being a laggard and at risk here. The innovation is not coming. The innovation is coming from different places, and you have to be willing to look more broadly and pivot quickly.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like I realize, I get that, NVIDIA might not be every company. I get it, right? But I tell my teams all the time, I'm like, the worst possible decision you can make is no decision.
Yes.
Right? It's the worst possible decision, and it's okay. There's very few things that are irreversible. There's very few decisions that are irreversible, right? And the speed at which you're going, at what we're progressing, I agree. I think it's very beneficial to get in there and see what's available, what's not available, what's capable, what's not capable, and you'll really quickly figure out where it fits in your business.
Yeah. So we covered use cases, we covered tech. Let's talk a little bit more about the data that is powering generative AI. And I would say generative AI really is letting us get to this unstructured data, whether it's PDFs, emails, images, video. I think structured data, there's opportunities as well to apply generative AI to that. But what do you see as working or blocking the ability to get to this semi-structured data?
Oh my goodness. PDFs, am I right? The way I describe these kind of semi-structured, or things like PDFs, I don't mean to pick on PDF, right? But I think it's the easiest one to talk to. There's a lot of formats that might have the same problem. The best way I describe this is I'm like, it's only edge cases. That's all it is, right? Like trying to ingest this PDF is only edge case, because you don't know whether this is just text that's coming in a PDF. Is it text and images? Or does this PDF have a fully playable version of the video game Doom inside of it, which is a thing that actually exists? Or Tetris, right? Like you can play Tetris inside of a PDF, right? Which is mind blowing. And so the span there is giant, right? Like, and so, as we're looking at this type of data and multimodal data, there's all the problems of parsing, right? And so which models are you going to use for which type of data? That's probably the easiest problem to solve. Like, are you using a VLM or using an LLM? But then once you start to just pull it a little bit, you run into all these issues. Let me give you an example. You got a PDF, it has a chart in it, right? It's a bar chart. And if you're not careful about this bar chart, you'll have a model, a vision model that will say, oh, okay, I got it. I understand what's here. You have 5 rectangles. That's not what you have, because it doesn't matter. The rectangles by themselves don't matter. It's the
Right.
relationship between the rectangles, right, that matter. And then you have a caption on this thing. And you're like, okay, I need to know that the caption goes with this graph. And then if I want to recall all this data together, right, if I'm doing a retrieval task, there might be text somewhere else in the PDF that references the series of rectangles that has the caption, right? Like, and you need to know that that text goes with this chart, right? And goes with this caption. And sometimes it's labeled and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it just refers back. And you could go on and on and on and on with these types of things. So I think that type of document that like mashes up so much multimodal content is a very active area of both research and development right now. You see a lot of companies spinning up to do just what you said, like take this document and ingest it and make it, searchable for me. I'll tell you, one of the most reliable ways to do that right now is to take the PDF and you convert it to an image, and then you use OCR to read the text out of the image, right?
Wow.
Like it's if you would have told me that 10 years ago in 2015 that's how we would be doing it, I would have not believed you, right? Like, but it's one of the most reliable ways to kind of do it, because you sidestep all does this PDF contain the video game Tetris? Does it contain a zip bomb? Does it contain some type of virus inside of it? You sidestep all of that, right, by just taking it to an image and doing it. So there's creative solutions like that I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface of. But if you can do that, right, like if you can get to this state where you have this kind of multimodal ingest and semi-structured or unstructured data, there's a lot of power there. If I look at video and text, right, there's companies, right, and we have there's another blueprint, we call it VSS, visual search and summarize, right? Anyone can go and look at it. You've got all this, say you've got like you have a warehouse, you got security camera footage of the warehouse, right? You can ask it a question. You're like, what happened between midnight and 2 a.m., right? And it will go to that video feed, it will summarize it for you, it will search through it, and it will give you a text report of what happened during that time. You can do the same thing for audio, right? And you can do the same thing for audio and video. And so those types of interesting use cases apply not just to warehouses and security, they apply to every major sports league ever, right? You want to go back and you want to find this play by this person or this, right? So there's a lot of applicability to those types of things. It's getting the data, it's ensuring that you have labeled data, right, when possible, and it's being able to process that data at speed.
Yeah, and so I hadn't been thinking of PDF using OCR. I was thinking put some structure on it and put it in your structured data platform. I guess that's my bias coming from the structured world. The use cases you described are super compelling here. What many CDAOs and business leaders are trying to do, though, are combining both worlds. So are we thinking too far? Is that just a pipe dream? And as you and I started this conversation about extreme weather events going on, let me give you an example. A PDF has my policy, my business insurance, homeowners insurance policy. We have drones now that can look at structures. Is there ice damming on roofs? And now structured data. What is my liability for all these structures if there is a mass insurance event? So I'm combining 3 types of data. That's what the business wants to do. Is the technology ready, or where do we stand?
I the technology is so close to being ready.
Close.
Right? It's so close, right? Like you can taste it. It's so close, right? Like and I come from, believe it or not, I come from the structured, almost the structured world too. My PhD is in theoretical computer science, specifically database systems. So it was like the efficient logical query optimization for loosely and unstructured data, right?
Oh.
That we should talk about at some point, right? Like I
Yes.
never get to talk about it anymore. But we talked about like kind of like the semi-structured or unstructured. There are still like active research areas in structured, right, data as well, because just taking an HLI, so a human language query, and translating that to something like just straight up SQL isn't necessarily as easy as people think it is, right? Because there are if you let me give you an example. If I were to ask you, and let's say you're a SQL database, and I'm like, okay, give me the top 3 graphics cards used in the top 3 most popular games of 2024. Are you going to give me 3 graphics cards, or are you going to give me 9 graphics cards? Right? Like it's slightly ambiguous from that question, right? And that's where we can introduce fine tuning. We can introduce like adaptability to the enterprise, and we can introduce steering. But it goes back to like, this is now customized for my use case, right? Like there's not going to be one thing that solves this. So I think as we kind of get in more in these different worlds, in the structured world and the unstructured world, we uncover these areas that we're rapidly addressing, and we have tools to address. And that's why I say it's so close. Like we can do so much. I'm least worried about the kind of putting together of data, because as you have it at the very end, you have it all in embedding space, right? It's in a shared embedding space. And that's not, I think, the problem. I think the issue now is, how are we ingesting it? How are we doing our SQL queries, for example, or any structured query, right? Like how are we doing our structured queries in meaningful and impactful and salient ways for your business?
Yeah. So you're making me laugh, Bartley, because now you're leading the witness. It goes to show you that even though ThoughtSpot sponsors this podcast, it is thought leadership. I know somebody would love to show you ThoughtSpot Spotter on the human language interface to structured data. But we've covered so much ground. Maybe looking ahead, what advice would you give data and AI leaders who are feeling overwhelmed by these rapid developments?
I mean, perfect is the enemy of better,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
It's if you're waiting for the perfect solution, right? Like it's like it's like when you're working out. If you're waiting on motivation to show up, it's never going to show up, right? Like if you're waiting on perfect to show up, like it's never going to show up. They're always late, right?
Yeah.
So perfect, is the enemy of better. I think, and again, because we are a bit, the space is evolving very quickly. So we have kind of research ways to compare things. We have leaderboards, right? Like Hugging Face has leaderboards. We have the SWE Bench, which is for software engineering leaderboards. We have all these different places. I would say find the one that kind of matters to you. But I think there is opportunity in this space for a company or for a person like yourself, maybe, or you could do the BI scorecard version, right? Like of this agentic kind of AI thing, right? Like you could, that I haven't seen. I've seen all these like leaderboards, but especially for agentic AI, how are we kind of like comparing these things, in an unbiased kind of way that the ecosystem can consume? And so I think those would be my two recommendations.
Yeah, trust me, I'm tempted to go away for a few months and do that. But Bartley, we've covered so much ground. It's been really fun. I'm going to do a hard pivot to a lightning round. Rapid fire questions, short answers. Who do you feel to be an inspirational leader in our space right now?
I think it is Gemma Turan.
Okay. I want to ask why.
Well, yeah. So she's the CEO of the Ursilia Open Source Initiative, and
Okay.
what they're doing is they're making AI and ML models open source for drug discovery.
Oh,
And
cool.
so it's democratizing this model space for drug discovery for any country that wants to get in it to help address these issues.
Love it. How about a book or a podcast you think everyone should read or listen to?
So other than the data chief, right? Like I checked it. No. Other than that one, no. I thought about this. If I had to pick one, it would be the Happiness Hypothesis, right? Which I think everyone should read. It's not a light read, right? Not a light read. If you're in the mood for a light read, though, or lighter read, I think it's Danny Meyer's Setting the Table, which is fantastic.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. How about a song that pumps you up after a hard day?
I'm going to get so much grief for this one. It's Dua Lipa, Break My Heart. If for no other reason than, if you didn't know it, the drummer on that track is Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He walked into the studio, laid down the drums live. Break My Heart, Dua Lipa, Chad Smith.
Oh, what a great story. I feel like I have to ask you about your PhD. You said you never get to talk about your PhD. Why did you choose that topic?
It's a long time ago. I chose it because, there was so much this was back in the days where we thought XML was going to be the savior of all data representation, right? XML, UML, like all this schema type representation. And it was like, okay, well, that's great. But how do we efficiently query these kind of, like you said, unstructured or semi-structured data? And we didn't have this notion of RAG, or we didn't have this like vector embedding notion at the time. So it was like, okay, well, how do I shard this? How do I do, horizontal traversal links to put this into a traditional RDBMS, right? And so it was kind of all about that and optimizing that kind of logical optimizer.
Yeah, I feel like listeners are going to look for your thesis. So I don't know if you make that available on your LinkedIn profile, but
it's
maybe
available.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry to everybody.
All right, Bartley, you can choose the last one. Either what are you most grateful for right now, maybe beyond the obvious of health and family, or something that has totally made you laugh out loud of late?
I think I'll take the former, and I alluded to it earlier. I think now, at this point in where we are at as a human society, as Earth, is the most exciting time that I think we could be here. As a kid growing up with Star Trek and Star Wars and being like a huge nerd into all that kind of stuff. What's out there, the technologies are out there that I can speak to something. I can take my phone, I can point it to a building, and I can ask it, like, what is this building? When was it made? And it comes back and it tells me the answer. Like, this is the Starship Enterprise day, right? Like, it does these types of things. It's not perfect all the time, right? But it's really good. And so I'm so thankful that as a kid, that I never thought I would see this, right? Like, you've watched the TV and you never think you see it. I'm living this like future fantasy thing I had as a kid, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, it is. Bartley, we're so grateful that you spent time with us on The Data Chief and all the work you do for our industry. Thanks for being a guest on The Data Chief.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to our three visionaries for sharing their insights. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To dig into more trends, predictions, and more importantly, resolutions, what should you do about them? Check out our top 10 trends in data and AI on thoughtspot.com. Download the ebook today for your best practices for 2025.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Data Chief. Want to learn more about today's guest, recommend a future guest, or listen to more of the show? Subscribe to the Data Chief podcast on your favorite podcast player, connect with Cindi on LinkedIn, or give her a shout on X at BI Scorecard. The Data Chief is brought to you by ThoughtSpot. Putting humans at the center of data-driven decision-making doesn't have to be complicated. ThoughtSpot makes it easy. With ThoughtSpot, anyone in your organization can intuitively answer their own data questions, find facts, and make better, faster decisions that drive real business value. Learn how companies like PepsiCo, EasyJet, and Electronic Arts have sparked their data renaissance at ThoughtSpot.com.